You know, the future isn't some big mystery. Sometimes all you really need to do is look, and look closely at the headlines from just a single day. So that's what we're going to do today. We are going to zoom in on the news from October 16th, 2025, and see if we can connect the dots and figure out what it all tells us about where we're headed. All right, let's get right into it. The main takeaway from this one day is, well, it's that nothing happens in a vacuum. You've got these huge tech deals over here, the market suddenly tanking over there, and a political firestorm brewing in the middle. They might seem like separate stories, but they're not. They're all connected. In fact, they're symptoms of a world that's under some serious pressure from three big intertwined forces. So, first up, let's talk about pressure point number one. Technology. I mean, we are in the middle of a brand new gold rush, and it's all being driven by the insane speed of AI. The potential rewards, they're absolutely staggering, but so are the risks. This is a race that has incredible promise on one side, and you guessed it, unprecedented peril on the other. And if you really want to get your head around the sheer scale of this gold rush, just look at this number, $65 billion. That's how much Oracle managed to pull in for new cloud deals in just 30 days. That includes a massive, game-changing partnership with Meta to power their AI dreams. This isn't just an investment, folks. It's a tidal wave of cash, a tsunami of capital, all chasing the exact same thing, being number one in tech. And this really gets at the two sides of the coin for this whole tech revolution. On one side, yeah, you've got the incredible promise of AI doing things that just a few years ago felt like straight-up science fiction. But then you flip that coin over, and what do you see? The peril. The very real potential for mass surveillance and a whole new level of super sophisticated cyber threats. And here's where that risk side of the coin comes into sharp focus. This quote, it's from the Electronic Frontier Foundation, and it's a pretty stark warning about a new partnership between Amazon's Ring and a company called Flock Safety. Basically, this deal makes it way easier for law enforcement to access video from millions of private cameras. The critics have a name for it, a digital dragnet, a giant news surveillance network. And let me be clear, these risks are not theoretical, not at all. On this exact same day, a cybersecurity company called F5 saw its stock absolutely plummet, down 10%, after they admitted they'd been hit by a devastating breach. Who did it? A highly sophisticated nation-state threat actor from China. Now, this wasn't just a problem for one company. The hack was so bad it actually triggered an emergency order from the US government. And you can already start to see how it all connects, right? The race for tech dominance fuels a cyber war, that cyber war ramps up global tension, and that creates a whole lot of economic anxiety. Okay, so that brings us perfectly to our second pressure point. Let's see how all this stuff is connected. All that tension we just talked about, from tech, from global politics, it's starting to cause some serious cracks in the global economy. We're talking shockwaves that are being felt everywhere, from Wall Street all the way down to Main Street. Just a few days earlier, the CEO of JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon, used this very vivid image to talk about the risk of bad loans. His point was pretty simple. When you see just one cockroach, you can bet there are probably a whole lot more hiding in the walls. And on October 16th, yeah, it really started to feel like we were seeing cockroaches everywhere. And the damage was just undeniable. In one single day, regional banks got hammered. Zion's Bancorp just cratered, down 13%. Jefferies dropped 10%. The entire regional banking sector fell over 6%. You had all these fears swirling about bad loans and fraud, and investors, well, as one analyst put it, they were looking for more cockroaches. But look, these economic jitters weren't just a domestic issue. No way. They were going global. On the very same day, all the way over in Switzerland, they had to slash their own economic growth forecast. And what was the reason? They pointed directly to the heavy burden of a 39% U.S. tariff. It's just a crystal clear reminder of how tangled up our economies really are and how a policy in one country can cause real pain in another. And if you want the perfect poster child for this whole economic conflict, look no further than the growing fight over rare earth minerals. I mean, this is the essential stuff you need for everything, from high-tech weapons to electric cars. And what we're seeing is a classic back and forth, a tit for tat. China announces controls on their exports, the US immediately cries foul, saying they're weaponizing the supply chain, then China fires back, accusing the US of just creating panic, and the end result? The US is now scrambling to build its own supply chain. Make no mistake, this is an economic war for the raw materials of the future. Which, of course, brings us to our third and final pressure point. Think about it. At the exact moment we need clear, decisive action to handle all these massive tech and economic changes, what's happening? The political system is just stuck. It's a story of total paralysis and really deep conflict. Just look at this number, 50 to 44. That was the vote count in the US Senate for a super important bill to, get this, fund the military while the government was shut down. It needed 60 votes to pass. It wasn't even close. The gridlock had gotten so bad that even something as basic as paying the troops was getting caught in the political crossfire. And look, this kind of political breakdown isn't just some abstract problem you read about. It has a real, immediate price tag. On that same day, the CEO of United Airlines, Scott Kirby, came out with a warning. He basically said, hey, when a shutdown drags on, people lose confidence in the government. And that uncertainty, it hits our travel bookings. It's a perfect, real-world example of how political paralysis sends ripples straight through the economy. But the pressure wasn't just coming from gridlock. It was also coming from a whole new level of political conflict. Also happening on this day, the former National Security Advisor, John Bolton, was indicted by a federal grand jury. Now, what's significant about that is that he was the third major critic of the president to face criminal charges in just a few weeks. It was a huge signal that the political climate had shifted beyond just normal partisan squabbling into something much more volatile. Okay, so let's take a step back and actually connect these dots. We've looked at headlines from tech, from finance, and from politics. But what's the big picture here? What happens when you put all these pieces together? Well, when you look at all the news from this one day, you see these three massive forces at work, right? You've got technology accelerating at an incredible pace. You've got an economy that's looking more and more fragile. And you've got a political system basically stuck in gridlock. And the most important thing to get, the real key here, is that these are not three separate stories. They're all part of one single interconnected system. What we're really seeing is something you could call an interconnected feedback loop. Here's how it works. That frantic race for tech supremacy, especially in AI, it's like pouring gasoline on the fire of global tensions and trade wars. Then, those conflicts create economic instability. And that instability puts even more stress on a political system that's already at a standstill. It's a cycle where each problem makes the other problems even worse. And if you want that one perfect example that shows this feedback loop in action, just go back to that rare earths dispute. It has everything. It's a fight over the basic building blocks of technology. It's a high-stakes game for control over the global economy. And it's a huge issue of national security. See? All three of our pressure points, tech, the economy, and politics, are all tangled up in this one single explosive issue. So the events of just one day, they've given us this incredibly clear snapshot of a world under extraordinary and compounding pressure. And really, this gets to the heart of the challenge we're all facing. The question isn't, which one of these things is going to define our future. The real question is, how are we going to navigate all of them at the exact same time?